Hello, friends. I'm Suzanne Culberg. This is the Nope Coach podcast, episode 254, Wisdom from Shrek. It's the middle of the summer holidays here, and I decided to put Shrek on for the kids yesterday. Sidebar, we had to spend a number of minutes me talking them into actually watching it because they didn't want to watch this old movie. Shrek came out when I was already an adult, so I had a moment of feeling absolutely ancient. And I persevered because we had a moment last school holidays where I wanted to watch the Mighty Ducks and they didn't want to watch that old movie and then they loved it. So, anywho, we watched Shrek and I love it because it's a movie that can appeal to all ages. But, my favorite line is one of the classics: ogres are like onions. And I love it how Donkey's like, they smell really bad. Shrek's like, no, they make you cry. No, they have layers. And it had me thinking that personal development, working on yourself, is like onions. Yes, there's layers, but also it makes you cry at times. And when I run a round of Why Wait, invariably at some stage, sometimes often more than once, most participants will cry. And there's often embarrassment about that in the beginning. And tears are a gift. I remember the first time I heard someone say that, it was Khalida Malouf, who, if you haven't checked her out, go to Showgirl Awakening. Her work is amazing. And it was like tears really are a gift to be able to feel safe enough in a space to express your true emotions is something that many of us don't have. So I'm not saying I deliberately go out to make people cry. Like I'm thinking of those personal trainers who, get off on people puking and crying and stuff. Nothing like that. But in able to touch what's really going on, the deep stuff, the stuff many of us have buried or layered over with eating or drinking or shopping, to be able to let that emotion come forth and be expressed truly is a gift. So then, after watching Shrek, I was doing some journaling and I came across this quote from Mark Manson. And I was like, isn't it funny how the breadcrumbs all line up? Listen to this. Self-awareness is like an onion. There are multiple layers to it, and the more you peel them back, the more likely you're going to start crying at inappropriate times. And I was like, how funny on the same day to have the Shrek reminder. I'd seen Shrek before, but then this, self-awareness is like an onion. There's layers and crying at inappropriate times. And I just really want to normalize that. It's not sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and fluff. Sometimes there can be moments of pure joy and realizations, and yes, but more often than not, it's touching stuff we have avoided for years or decades. It's, looking at things that we've put into shadow or ignored or haven't ever acknowledged. It's, moving through challenging stuff. It's a slog. And I love the description of layers because sometimes you'll butt up against something. You'll be like, oh, but I've already worked through this. And I like to imagine it if you have a nautilus shell with the circle going closer and closer and closer to the center. When you come back around, when you butt up against something again, you're closer to the center than you were before. It's not, oh, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. I'm starting all over again. I haven't made any progress. It's, the revolution has happened and here you are again, but in a new version of you, and you're touching it with new insights and new ability to move through it. So I think sometimes, and often it's because it depends how this is sold. Some of the marketing, a lot of the marketing for personal development is truly skeezy. Like I've studied hypnotherapy. It's one of the tools that I offer. And you see so many hypnotherapists, one session with me and you'll never touch a cigarette again, or one session with me and you'll never eat chocolate or crave chocolate again. And I'm like, seriously? Really? Like, so then when the person does that, they second guess themselves and think there's something fundamentally wrong with them and not that you're just marketing bullshit. There's nothing wrong with you for having cravings, for, falling back into, bad habits. I use that term loosely. But instead of using it as a personal failing, if you look to yourself with compassion and kindness and it's like, what's happening? What's going on? and leaning into the support system to move through it. We all have what we would consider personal failings and times where we do things or say things that aren't appropriate or aren't in our best interest. It's not about being a, breatharian living in a mountain who never makes any mistakes. It's about navigating, the humanness of the world and realizing that we're all going to fuck up sometimes. But how do we move through those and strengthen our connections and our relationships, including our relationship with ourselves, instead of what do they call it? Like spiritual bypassing or, ignoring, like making a severing the connection with self. When I woke up this morning, first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I go for a walk, and I have to overcome the urge to go straight onto my phone. And as I was like hovering, wanting to pick up my phone this morning, I was like, why do I want to tune out, like into what's happening externally before I want to tune in? And that brings me back to the, personal development, being like an onion and having many layers. And sometimes, we reach a layer that's a bit, I'm not ready to touch this now. So, we look for distractions. It's totally normal. It's part of the process. So thank you so much for tuning in. I encourage you to head over to my website, suzanneculberg.com, have a look at the work that I do. I have a boundaries bundle. I haven't spoken about this recently, so I'll do a quick riff. It's about basically how to say no without feeling like a bitch, how to communicate your needs to others, because people can't meet your needs if they don't know what they are. They aren't mind readers. Not everybody thinks the same way that we do. So if you go suzanneculberg.com and then click on the resources, there is the boundaries bundle there. There's also a free masterclass talking about how to say no. There's so many resources, and there's like 253 other episodes of this podcast. So if you're new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. And I hope to see you on the next one. Bye for now.